What's up, everybody? I know that this is a slightly different attire than what I usually have, but I just got back from class and I'm too lazy to change. So, today I want to talk about a couple of things that I've been wanting to talk about for quite a while. I want to talk about the state of the game industry, which I currently think is the worst it's ever been. I also want to talk about why I think it's not going to get any better. And I also want to talk about what that means for me and what that means for this channel and kind of what I want to do with the rest of my career. So let's just kick things off, shall we? Let's start with the state of the game industry and why I think it's only going to get worse. Now, when I talk about the things that are bad, I'm talking primarily about unregulated monopolies, which I would say almost all of the major players in the game development space right now are, of which there's not that many because they're monopolies, and that's the whole point of a monopoly. I'm talking about those organizations, those corporations, going out of their way to implement all of the things that we on this channel and in the greater gaming community, at least on paper, say that we hate. And to summarize what those things are that I believe are going to start becoming increasingly prevalent over the next couple of years, I believe that you're going to start having games that are more predatory in nature from a monetization standpoint, to the point that I actually feel a number of these games are starting to model their business models based on casinos and gambling practices because they know that that is very effective. We're also going to start seeing an increased number of games becoming 100% online only. And what I mean by that is even if you purchase the game or pour thousands of dollars into it, after that game's life cycle is done and it is shut down, you will have no way to continue playing that game that you purchased. And that will be by design. That's not a mistake. These companies are building games with that included into the game, almost like a feature, not for you all, but for them, because they don't want you to continue playing the game that you bought. They want you to buy the next one. I believe that we're going to have features like modification support and being able to host your own servers stripped out of games because these companies don't want the community to be able to support the games themselves. Again, that gets in the way of them being able to control the lifespan of these games. And I think that because of all these changes, these companies are going to start making record profits. But despite record profits, they're not interested in sharing any of that money with the people who are actually making the game. So I also think that you are going to see record layoffs, which we're already starting to see. So that is what I believe the future of the game industry is going to be currently. And I feel like we're at this point of no return. I believe that there was multiple opportunities that we've had in the past where we could have chose a different direction, but I personally believe that those moments have passed and we are now in terminal velocity mode where the next couple of years is going to be dominated by these kinds of things, and maybe after that there will be a market crash because these practices are unsustainable. But until that happens, I think that this is just going to be commonplace and the new standard throughout the industry. And I also want to talk about the reasons why. The primary reason why I believe that this is inevitable at this point is because despite both myself and lots of other people drawing attention to the situation, creating videos that get hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, and you have thousands upon thousands of people commenting on these videos, saying that they agree with us and that we all share the same sentiment and we believe that these things shouldn't be in the game industry. After watching everything progress over the last couple of years, I have realized that all of those people, despite on paper saying that they disagree with these things, theoretically, everyone is still buying these games. Everyone is still supporting these practices. You'll have short periods of time of, I'm not even sure if it's genuine outrage at this point or if everybody is just trying to make themselves look good, but you will have short periods of outrage, individuals going and posting negative reviews on Steam, content creators posting angry videos denouncing these things that these companies do. But then after a very short period of time, everyone goes back to purchasing these games and supporting these studios, even after the studios have made no changes to the games and are continuing to do the exact same things, if not doing them even more. And it has reached a point that I'm aware now the companies that make these games, the corporations that manage these development studios, have enough data that they realize that all of this backlash ultimately means nothing. Because in order to put a stop to this behavior, people need to vote with their wallets. And I myself have the unique opportunity to be both a content creator, an influencer, and also a developer and game studio owner. I have games that I have released and published on Steam, and I have this and other YouTube channels that I've been running for over a decade now, and I've gotten to see from both sides the situation progress. And from what I have seen, all of these studios are now aware, they have enough data to know that there are no real consequences for these things that everyone says that they hate, but when the chips are actually down, people are still buying the games, people are still playing the games and supporting the studios, and the very small amount of backlash doesn't seem to be having any effect, and the companies making these games are aware of this now, which is why over the next couple of years I think things are going to get considerably worse. I have actually seen data for a number of games that have gotten review bombed on Steam. Periods of time where you actually have individuals who go and post negative reviews voicing their concerns, and during those periods of time, the sales for those games actually increase. So that is the state of the industry currently. That is the situation. And myself as an influencer, as a content creator, I used to have more of a belief that one of our best chances to stop this wave from overtaking the industry and changing all of the games that we play and love into things that, at least allegedly, we say we would not like. I used to believe that one of our best chances to fight against that change would have been social media, and the prominent voices on social media that could shine a light on these practices and draw attention to these things and rally people to fight back against these trends. Unfortunately, it has also reached a point on the content creation side of the industry. Upwards of 90% of all content creators, prominent content creators in this space, are currently on payroll for the companies that are also implementing all of these things and pushing these changes for all of these games in the game development industry. And I understand that content creators need to be able to support themselves in order to continue creating content. However, over the last few years of watching this migration of content creators moving from supporting themselves using more traditional means, such as ad revenue, to accepting paid contracts directly from studios. It has now reached a critical point where I am starting to notice a widespread fear from content creators when it comes to criticizing these brands for doing all of the things that I mentioned previously in this video. Because all of these content creators, instead of making a minority of their income from these contracts, are now making the majority of their income from these contracts. And this problem has only been exacerbated because of the continuous changes that both YouTube and other social media platforms have made to their platform that has absolutely demolished the long-term viability of content creation as a career. So what I believe has happened isn't that all content creators have moved over to accepting contracts from these studios and from these monopolies. What I believe has happened has been more of a natural selection situation where the content creators that are not taking direct contracts from these studios and are trying to support themselves through more traditional means while still being able to report neutrally on these situations. Content creators that are doing that, because of the changes that YouTube and other social media platforms have been making, those content creators are going out of business and being forced off of the platform. And the only content creators that are surviving and still are able to make content full time are content creators that are accepting paid contracts with these studios, with these companies, with these monopolies. And while I know a lot of the content creators that accept these sponsorships, accept these paid contracts on a monthly basis would say that it doesn't impair their ability to cover these situations neutrally, it is my professional opinion as someone who has been doing this for over a decade that that is completely untrue. Even if a content creator is making unsponsored content, the contracts that you get for covering a product positively, even just a single sponsored video, is enough to pay for an entire month's worth of expenses. And continuously getting those sponsorship contracts doesn't just require positive coverage in that sponsored video. There is an implicit expectation that all of your content positively reflects the brand. Although that may not be something written into the contract, since these contracts are constantly under review, they can be revoked at any time for any reason. And because of this, I have noticed this shift where almost every content creator that accepts these deals on a regular basis is now fearful to criticize any studio that they know is actively creating paid campaigns. Now, I'm not particularly interested in going into deep detail regarding which companies are offering these paid contracts or which influencers are taking them. Partly because you don't really need me to tell you in order to find examples of this. I mean, it's so widespread at this point, just throw a dart at a wall. But also because all of this is technically legal. All of these sponsorships, other than maybe a couple of mistakes in terms of disclosure here and there, all of these companies, all of these content creators are following FTC guidelines. So there's nothing really to expose here, at least not legally. It just means that the most prominent voices that might have been some of the best to fight against this trend of companies implementing things that we really despise in the video games that we love, all of those voices are compromised. The monopolies that are building these games that want to control these narratives have taken advantage of these recent vulnerabilities on YouTube and other social media platforms that has destabilized all of the careers for these content creators. And as monopolies do, when they see a vulnerability, they come in and they exploit it. And that is what they have done. And they have put almost everyone on contracts, which means they now control both sides of the chessboard. They control the development and distribution side, and now they also control the marketing and narrative generation side. And I personally believe that it's kind of reached an end game state on that front. So the last part of this video is, what does this mean for me? Why am I even making this video? And there are a number of things that I want to talk about that I am probably going to change about how I manage this channel, and also change about my life as I just explore other things that I am interested in. 5 or 6 years ago, I had a vision. I wanted to assemble a community to create a game that, at least on paper, was all of the things that everybody said that they wanted a game to be in this side of the industry. That game was, of course, our game, Operation Harsh Doorstop. And the craziest thing is that we succeeded. This game is thriving. There's a community of players and content creators still to this day building content for it. I'm incredibly proud of this, and I intend to spend the rest of my life making this game. Now, with that said, while the game itself, at least by all metrics that I was measuring by, has been a smashing success, the grander mission that I had, which was to inspire others to create games with a similar objective, I feel like I have failed on that front. Instead of seeing the industry, even in the indie space, trend away from hyper monetization and trend away from a lot of the issues that the gaming community, at least on paper, said that they disliked about games, I have seemingly only seen things go in the opposite direction. It seems like now more than ever, every project I come across is focused on personal gain. Even when you have individuals making more money than I think most others could possibly conceive of, it seems like the games and the projects being created are focused on profit over building a community-first experience. When you look at a project like what Dr. Disrespect was working on, I mean, he's in Hot Water now, but even when he wasn't in Hot Water, I never really got the impression that he was making that game, that anybody on that studio was making that game for anyone's benefit other than their own. And that seems to be the trend across the board. That idea of building projects for personal gain and the gaming community continuing to enable that, that concept seems to have been normalized. And there's nothing illegal about that. There's nothing inherently wrong about that. It's just not the kind of environment that I enjoy. So, what do I intend to do about it? Well, the closest thing that I have gotten to that kind of feeling has been the community that we've cultivated for the OHD project. And I think going forward, I am going to be focusing a lot more on that. Even if it's something that didn't really set off the kind of trend that I wanted to set off, I still feel most comfortable focusing on that project and the people within it. As far as how that affects my YouTube channel, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but videos on my own project don't do nearly as well as videos about trending topics and things that the algorithm wants me to cover. And that actually has a lot to do with what I previously said, where YouTube has implemented a lot of changes that has demolished the long-term viability of content creation as a career. I would say you notice similar trends across lots of other channels. You have more content creators than ever before with millions of followers, and yet whenever they talk about a topic that they want to talk about, that content gets next to no viewership. But whenever they pander to the algorithm and they focus on trends, they get the number of views that they need to survive. It did not used to be that way. It did not used to be that way. But now that it is, it really makes me question whether I want to focus on YouTube specifically, or at least focus on what YouTube wants me to focus on specifically for a career. Especially because I actually think that that is part of the issue that is causing all of the problems that I said previously. It's getting to a point where content creators can't talk about any other projects than what are the trending projects. And since a lot of these monopolies have really perfected their ability to control the algorithm, control the narrative, where they have paid off both the influencers and they have set up the development studios where they control all sides of the chessboard, it seems like everybody is trapped into pandering to this ongoing cycle where we are unwillingly supporting studios that are implementing all of these things into the games that we play that at least a few years ago we all said that we universally hated and that we would never play games that continue to implement those features, and yet here we are. So now more than ever, I really want to break out of that cycle. The first thing that you're probably going to start noticing on this channel is going to be more content focused around the game that we're making and the community that is currently helping to create it. Now, the content I make on that gets significantly less viewership than other content that I create, and it's actually a very strange feeling to log into YouTube every single day and know exactly what I should create in order to get hundreds of thousands or millions of views. But it's at this point where I just don't really want to do that anymore, especially since YouTube has very aggressively demonetized both myself and lots of other channels, especially channels that focus on wargaming content. The reward isn't even that much of an incentive anymore because the ad revenue isn't fantastic, and unless I am taking sponsorship deals with companies that are doing all of the things that I just previously mentioned, then it's not really sustainable long term. In fact, if anything, even a smaller number of views on videos about Operation Harsh Doorstop end up generating more revenue purely from people who donate to the project, because the game is free. You don't even have to buy it. But even from people who are genuinely interested in what we're making, having a handful of people donating to the development of a free game is actually generating more money than hundreds of thousands of views in ad revenue off of YouTube generates, which is kind of insane when you think about it. So there really is a pretty big shift for me mentally, and what I'm realizing is more worth my time. And I think the development of our game is starting to become more apparent to me that that is more valuable than talking about really anything else. Now, there are still other games out there that I have a lot of respect for, that I have a lot of interest in, but quite frankly, nowadays they are fewer and further between than before. The vast majority of games that I have seen that have been announced recently are some of the worst offenders when it comes to all of the stuff that I outlined at the beginning of this video that I thought categorically we all despised, and yet all of those games that are doing all of those things seem to be the trending topic for the last couple of years, and I'm assuming are going to continue to be so until the market implodes, because it's just not going to be sustainable. So I think I'm going to check out of covering all of those other projects for a while, because I just don't really see that going anywhere. Now, the other thing that I want to talk about that I'm focusing on a lot more, and this might make people angry, I don't really know. I'm not sure if I care. I'm just letting everybody know. But another thing that I am focusing a lot more on, because if I'm going to be shifting my focus elsewhere, I have to find something else that is more worth my time. And what recently that has been, at least for me, has been my academics. I got an undergraduate degree quite a while ago, and I worked for a hospital for a short period of time before becoming a full-time content creator for over 10 years. I studied a little bit of computer science during my undergraduate degree, and I have continued studying computer science, obviously, for developing our games, among other things. And recently, I applied to graduate school to obtain a master's in data science, and I was accepted. Now, I am going to be very transparent about this, and this is the thing that I know not everybody is super keen on, but the primary reason that I am interested in getting a master's in data science is because I have been, over the last few years, working a lot on developing software that utilizes artificial intelligence. I know that AI is a trend right now, and it's kind of a hot topic, but if you ask anyone who actually knows me, it has been something that I have been very interested in for many, many years. And if anything, the recent trend of artificial intelligence really taking off in the mainstream markets has been a huge opportunity for me to start exploring that field even further. And data science, which is what I'm obtaining my master's in, is very much aligned with artificial intelligence. That's why I chose that field, because in the end, hey, AI, it's all just data, man. So that is also something that I am going to be exploring a lot. Now, I don't know if anyone here is interested in those kinds of things. I don't know if I'm actually going to talk about artificial intelligence or AI on this channel at all. And for those wondering how that would impact my ability to pay attention to Operation Harsh Doorstop, I actually believe that me pursuing this degree and learning more about data science and computer science is actually going to help me manage the development team and continue developing this game way more than me just complaining about video games and making vapid videos about trending topics. So, I mean, I guess there are other things that potentially I could do, although I can't think of what they would be, that could more greatly benefit Operation Harsh Doorstop. But compared to what I've been doing, which has been expected of me by the YouTube algorithm in order to get the viewership I need to maintain my channel, which is making videos about things that honestly have nothing to do with this at all. I would say anything else at this point is a better alternative to the long-term viability of Operation Harsh Doorstop. So that is the other thing that I am very interested in doing. In fact, I mean, that's what I am dressed up for, because when I came back from studies today, I just had inspiration. I wanted to make this video, and I haven't even bothered to change. But that is going to be my life going forward. My life going forward is I'm going to have a much bigger focus on my game, most likely to the detriment of my channel's analytics, but so be it. And I'm also going to have a much bigger focus on my academia, which includes my research and education as it pertains to developing artificial intelligence, which, again, I know not everybody is super on board with, but I personally find it fascinating, and I love the field, and I also believe, especially with the things that I am interested in doing, that it will be greatly beneficial to humanity. At least a lot more beneficial than sitting at a desk bitching about video games to a camera that everybody ends up buying anyways. So why are we even complaining about these games if everybody's going to support these studios in the end, regardless? So that is my stance going forward. That is what I want to do. I actually think, as I said previously, a lot of these studios make more money during the review bomb phases. I actually think the negative press is fueling some of these trends where these studios that are implementing these awful things are actually getting more attention for it, and as an unattended consequence of that are actually succeeding more because of that attention. So I'm not even sure if me covering some of the things that these studios are doing is actually doing any good, or if it's instead just kind of like helping to inadvertently further their agenda. So frankly, I think the best way to fight some of these studios and what they're doing is to just ignore them. Just straight up ignore them and focus on other projects that I believe are better examples of what I, at least, would like the gaming community to be. So that is the plan. This video is upwards of 40 minutes now, so I apologize for that. But this is all stuff that I've been wanting to say for a while. If anybody is offended by this video, I apologize. This is just genuinely my perspective of the industry as of right now. I know some people think that I'm a Debbie Downer, but actually, I don't even think that I am. I would say that this is a fairly realistic outlook at this point. It's been a long time coming, and I think that we've had lots of opportunities to change our ways, and we haven't. So since I don't really see that changing, I am interested in finding other ways to contribute to the industry that I think is actually going to do greater good. So that's the plan. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully I'll see you in the next video. Lots of cool things that I can't wait to make videos about. For those of you who intend to stick around, thank you very much. And yeah, I guess I will see you guys around. Cheers.